All right, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is David Diaz, and I'm the Business Services Unit Coordinator with the Alameda County Workforce Development Board. We're happy that all of you came out here to the Casper Valley Library, and now we're going to get into testimonial part, the meat and potatoes part of this event that we're having today. So immediately to my left, and then working the way down the table, immediately to my left, we have Stephanie Bradshaw, Director of Workforce Services with the College of Alameda. Next, we have Justin Beeler, owner of Grocery Outlet in Hayward, California. Then to the left, we have Nyla, we have Nyla Harris, who is a substitute teacher at Child Career Centers. And then we have Akeem Fig, Employment Coordinator with Bay Area Community Services. We then have, and you saw him in the video here a moment ago, Eugene Rosebud. He's a parking attendant with Douglas Parking, and he fuels airplanes at Oakland International Airport. To the left of Eugene, we have Antoinette Watkins, who is also an employment coordinator with Bay Area Community Services. And last, certainly not least, we have, sorry, I have to read my own writing here. We have DeAndre Carson. He is in school currently, studying to be a barber at Bellows Barbering and Beauty College in Pittsburgh, California. So real quick round of applause for our panel. So we have a few questions here to just kind of get this to get the panel going. And the first set of questions that we're going to ask is for DeAndre, Eugene, and Nyla. So just want to kind of speak up to the audience. The first question is, this is like the hard one, the tough question. Can you share with us, this room, what led to your being homeless, to your being unhoused?
This was, I found out that the landlord that I was paying for quite a significant amount of time was playing me, and I learned that I was paying $300 for the service it actually cost. It was disappointing because, you know, you still like to trust people, but then I went to leave, and so my mother offered me to reside with her, and I was her sister. And I thought that we could build a relationship and bond after all this time, but I was wrong. And so that left me feeling kind of lost and unloved, stressed out, really pressured to try to figure something out. Because at that time I had no option.
All right, Eugene.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? First of all, let me say it's a pleasure to be here. I'm very grateful. My journey is a little bit different. I won't say I was homeless. I spent 26 years behind the bar. One thing I did do, and I live by a quote, that a failed plan is failed. I worked very hard, very diligent in changing who you were. When I got out, I was working for a company called CEO, Center for Employment Opportunity. This is where I met Ms. Stephanie. Her and her team was very, very instrumental in giving up resources for people like myself wanting a second chance. First class life. So I hit the door running. I've been working 2 jobs since I've been out of prison in 2020. I had a great life prior to my prison. So I knew how to do it. I just needed the opportunity. At any rate, as you heard, I worked for a company who took a chance on me. First, I worked with Greyhound. And the guys from the Bay Area, we have a local station that phoned us. And so I had to change my career. You might have saw my little thing that I just never stopped, never gave up. So I never come to the chance on me. that was important. I now walk around and pick up money for all the locations that we have. Who would have thought? But I couldn't stop there. I knew the Bay Area very soon. So I got hired at the airport. And as I was explaining to Mr. Javier, I got on at an airline company. But I didn't stop there. I saw bigger and faster. I was networking with people at the airport. And now I fuel airplanes. Every single airplane that comes to that open, I fuel. Or my team or the company I work with, fuel. I am so blessed. So for me to be here, a resident of Oakland for 60 years, I visit and see the homeless. I go out to the community, my friends, we give back. I'm not too proud to go to mission to get food, but I can also give back to those homeless people. We take food to them. So I see this every day in my community. Every day. So it's such an honor to be here and to have who I hear, who these people are. I want to hear more what they have to say because they can also continue to help. Thank you.
So what led to my homelessness was I was a stay-at-home father for 3 years. Prior to that, I worked multiple jobs. But being a stay-at-home father, giving support and everything I had into the relationship and trying to raise a child, it led me down the road where I felt like I couldn't do for myself without the extra support that I needed. I couldn't maintain a job because I didn't constantly have childcare. I couldn't maintain my health because I had no time to go to the doctors because I didn't have childcare. So it became stressful. And then without a job, it's hard to maintain any bills, whether it be rent, car note, any of the bills that come with adulting. And so I went from couch surfing, squatting in apartments to sleeping in my car before I even checked myself into that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next question we have, if you could provide a little more detail as far as what service elements do you see, what supports were critical in helping you get on your path to employment and housing. If you could kind of describe a little bit like what happened right before your employment, right before your housing. So
And so that just helped me by providing the current space that I'm in, the very necessary psychiatric care that I personally needed. And they also provide school work materials for me, skills and certification courses. And I've also been able to actually just focus on myself for the first time in my life. And so that led to, personal spiritual growth, enhancement of my skills, and I established and pushed my first book.
So for me, again, my transition was pretty simple. It was just putting one foot in front of the other. I was in transfer housing for 6 months. The day a week before my time was up, I already had an apartment ready to go right before Christmas, 2020. So my transition to my own apartment, it felt like I was a king, I was stepping out to my own new world. So, for me, it was just about making sure each step that I made, I can have a better growth. Give myself more opportunity to succeed out here in society. And I've been told that. I thank God for this journey. And so today I'm just happy. I'm happy to live and do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to, do, and how I wanted to.
So for me, I am still currently in the back program. I have not transitioned out yet. I've been in here 9 months, give or take. But the services that I have gotten have helped me tremendously because, I feel like I had, prior to coming into the program, I was suffering from like anger issues and like social anxiety. And coming into the program, I've now been able to get the mental health services that I need so that I'm not struggling with being angry constantly. And prior to this program, me even doing a panel like this would have been out of the question. Because I would have had like a mental breakdown, just being in here with the amount of people. And then, you know, as far as employment goes, Miss Antoinette has been the biggest help when it comes to the BACS program because she has taken on a role where some of my care coordinators was not helping me. And so on top of being able to get my mental health in check, I've been able to get my physical health back on track, my dental hygiene's on track, and just being able to go to work without having a panic attack or letting little things trigger my emotions to where I'm flashing on people for something that they may not been able to control. Oh yeah, and I am working now. I work for the school district, the Pittsburgh Unified School District.
Thank you very much. Just a couple more questions real quick. So can you explain the impact that employment or going to school have had on your life? So Nyla, you talked about, so you work at a child care facility, but you also wrote a book, right? And you're a student. Okay, so it's right there. You're doing all of it, right? Can you explain to us kind of how, you get up in the morning, how do you feel working on those different
Well, at the time of homelessness, I was injured, I was sick, and so I had to literally fight to get to back without, going down the route of selling myself personally for shelter and things like that. That all that kind of came my way, which were like those solicitations. And so I had to have certain things like that, the first for them, so I'm still currently in that facility, and I start every morning with gratitude, prayers, affirmations, and I, hopefully positivity for my day so that my mind doesn't take it elsewhere when I see something or experience something like this. But, school, work, and, kind of building an entire is difficult, but with those things to start, I think it's been a lot. And so, shelter support for my team, I feel like I have everything.
Eugene, when you're fueling airplanes in the morning, what's going through your head?
Well, that would be the late one, because I do that job at night.
Oh,
But, so my morning starts pretty much just, understanding that, yeah, I can have 2 jobs a day, for 16 hours, I'm away from my law department. But it's a challenge each day to make sure that, Eugene is doing the right thing to maintain. And, really, it's just easier thanking God each morning, to have this opportunity to live again. And I enjoyed both jobs, and Stephanie can tell you, I will call them when I'm looking to change a job to get before I got who I am today. Now I'm at peace. I don't do jobs that are strenuous, unfortunately, but the hours of the day is just making sure that I can find time to sleep.
DeAndre, you're working with Pittsburgh Fight, correct? And then also enrolled in the school to become a partner. So how does that empower you?
Honestly, it makes me want to further be an entrepreneur. It makes me want to get from up under working for somebody. Granted, working for the school district is lovely, but I want to be able to make passive income whilst doing the things that I love instead of being stuck in a traditional 9 to 5, so to speak. Yeah, it's made me realize that I like kind of moving at my own pace versus being stuck in a situation where I'm being micromanaged or gotta constantly turn in the time card. Just the everyday things, everyday stresses that come with being an employee.
There's a question, it's kind of like a universal question, it's for all three of you. What would you say are the top 3 things that you want employers to know about what it's like experiencing homelessness? So 3 things, just look 3 things that you want the folks, looking on their laptops or whatever. What are 3 things you want employers to know as far as experiencing homelessness?
Okay, I feel like the current employees experiencing homelessness, they want employers to know that some level of capacity would be greatly appreciated. That every day is not the same, and sometimes it's not even a good day, so we still come in, we do our best, and, we do what we can to complete our task each day. As well as be affected like they would anyone else, because not every home situation has the same, stigmas and projections that financially that cause the situation.
Eugene?
It starts with me for opportunity. I think opportunity will show and develop the loyalty one to have, he wants the job. And then for me, it's longevity. I want a company that's gonna allow me to grow with that company.
I would have to say, first and foremost, that we're all human. So, like she said, some level of compassion would be nice. Some level of understanding that not every day is the same. Also, I don't know, I guess a little incentive to come to work. Because granted, I do get a paycheck, but a paycheck is not enough. When you have things like health or family issues or a car breakdown, sometimes that simple paycheck is not enough to keep me coming to work. And then a livable wage. That is probably the biggest one, a livable wage, something where I'm not struggling or have to make a decision whether to put gas in my car or eat for the night.
going to shift gears slightly with the panel. This question is actually going to be for Stephanie, Hakeem, and Antoinette. So the question for the three of you is, how do you determine if employment is a goal for individuals that you work with or experience in homelessness? So like at what point do you say, okay, we're moving into employment, so that's pretty much the response.
Sure. That tends to be starting with building relationships. The relationships that we build with our clients have to maintain their integrity and in fact have their trust. That we will serve them. So with that buy-in, being able to practice the act of listening to know what it is that you're coming to us for and exactly what it is that you need. So once you build a relationship and practice the act of listening, now we get into the coaching of it, which is what you desire to do, what type of work have you done in the past, getting to that coaching session to assess what it is that they actually desire to do, how can we support them, putting together that roadmap and that individualized employment plan. Part of that is assessing needs such as housing or shelter, food insecurity, clothing, other wraparound services, with all of that coaching. And once we go through that process, then we're on to the plan and moving forward with connecting them with employers, putting them into a training program and tapping into our common funded training funds, where we're able to support our clients with learning and recognition. Something that I can do much that one's there, but I'll stop there.
All right, Hakeem, how do you determine employment is the next step?
Well, say mine, as that we have a system for employment that we meet with the client normally. We meet with them and break down a profile. So during that process, we ask a bunch of questions, and during that time, we find out more about them. Find out what they want. Some clients may not be on an employment path. They might be on an educational path. Some are clientele having completed high school, having completed junior high, having something. So we find out what their need is, and then we go from there. Some might not want employment per se, and we think that a training course, somewhere that one of my clients is kind of put in place because of the state
job to job. So I did a training course. That training course he loved and got through, and now he is in construction to make it over 30 an hour. But he needed not to just be put in any type of job. That training course gave him all of the structure that he needed to successfully be employed. So it's just meeting with them, finding out who they are. It's deeper than, a real deeper than surface. What you got to talk to.
So for me, I do things a little bit different. I don't make the determination if the employment path is right for them. I let them make it for themselves. So I'm very big on exercising like the cognitive part of your brain where you are actively thinking about what steps need to be taken to get to wherever it is you want to be. And a lot of times, definitely building the rapport, like everyone else said, it's very, very important. But while I'm building the rapport, I'm allowing them to have conversations with me and posing questions. So for example, like I have DeAndre here, originally he kept saying he wanted to be a security guard. And then after so many security jobs, it was like, okay, something else is happening. Why didn't that work out? What made you feel like this space wasn't the best space for you? What did it look like? What about the smell got on your nerves? Like trying to tackle all of their senses to help them figure out, you know what, I may not actually want to do security because I don't like clocking in 9 to 5, but I do also cut hair. Oh, okay, well, there's barber school we can find for you. So a lot of times I try to get the clients to kind of tell me. So I developed this curriculum called Finding Your Superstar. And in that, I just pose a lot of questions that ask about, like, if you picked your dream job, like, what does it look like? What does it smell like? I can get you a job doing anything. If you just need an immediate job, I get you a job at Burger King, Tesla. We can go all around the world. But my biggest goal is to get you in a position where you actually have a career that you would prefer to stay in. So if you tell me that you do not want to work in an office where there are no windows and you can't go outside, I may not put you in an admin job. I don't want to put you in an admin training. So I allow them to kind of tell me when they are ready and what they are looking for. And so far it's worked.
So, again, this is a question for the three of you. What, in your opinion, are the top 3 strengths of people who are experiencing homelessness or have experienced homelessness as they toward employment? So, like, if an employer hires someone that is homeless or has experienced homelessness, what do you think are the top 3 strengths that that individual is going to bring to the job?
Definitely committed, the desire to want to be there. I think that the commitment and desire for this particular minority population. Once, like you just mentioned, once we find like that superstar, that thing that they actually were able to imagine with that job, I feel like they look at someone else. Eugene is one of our clients in Public Health and Visitor Center, and honestly, Eugene was working in the bathroom, but the desire to do more was there, and you all heard him speak about how he took the opportunity to brand language and continue to do more and seek out more. So I really would say Eugene is an example of that question.
Right? King, top 3 strengths.
Their determination, their resilience, and it's a level of being thankful and grateful. I've worked with a lot of reentry population, and I'm aware of the company that Eugene working for, or CEO. We have people that come out that are experiencing homelessness or reentry, and they are willing to do these jobs. They are grateful for where they come from. Just as in the prison population, you're doing just about anything to get out, to start working. So we have clientele that are doing the same exact thing, that are willing to do any type of job. But the CEO, highway maintenance, they move on from there to be anything, working with Caltrans and doing arrangement jobs. So it's a level of thankfulness that they have that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people won't take that minimum wage job. They feel that they're way better. I'm not saying that they can't be grateful for what they have, but we have people that are coming from our program that are willing to do what they have to do and be thankful for just any position and work their way up.
So, Antoinette.
So the first thing I would definitely say is I've noticed all of my clients are very resourceful. That is one thing about them. I've watched them make a whole enchilada dinner with a hot plate. They are extremely resourceful, and they are very good at thinking outside of the box as far as how am I going to get to work. Miss Antoinette isn't here today. She's out or working in the field, but I still have to make sure I get there. And I think also collaboration is one that I think they definitely bring as far as working with a team. And the reason I say that is because I notice a lot of them will talk to each other to try to make whatever needs to happen. So their ability to step into a role and collaborate with other individuals to ensure that they meet the ultimate goal of the employer, I definitely think they could do that. I also think they're very hardworking. I feel like sometimes you run into situations where you get individuals who they lack the willingness to kind of do the grunt work until they can work their ways up. It doesn't matter about like their background, their schooling, their anything. They're just like, I'm not going to do it. Whereas I feel like although people that are homeless, they definitely have standards. I don't want to lead people to believe that they're just willing to do anything. But once they have the opportunity, they're willing to rapidly show you, not only can I do this, but I can also be beneficial here as well. And so I know specifically for me, I support my clients with like advocating for themselves at work. And so I had a client who went from working at, working at a school, and she went from working at the school, working full time, to advocating to working part time, and ended up getting a raise all within like the first 60 days of working there. That takes true diligence. That takes true commitment. That takes being able to advocate for yourself. And when she did it gracefully, and she was willing to work hard. So she was helping in 2 classrooms when really you're only supposed to be helping in 1. So I think that's some of the stuff they bring to the table.
I have another question for you guys. And that question is, so how do you support your, how do you support job seekers? How do you support your clients? How do you support them once they're already on the job, or once they're already in school? So you're working with a client, with a participant, you got them, you came up with your individualized employment program, you place them in the job, you place them in school, they're now going to school or going to work. What kind of support do you provide next, after the placement? Now, what kind of support do you provide, Stephanie?
Okay. So, as that example is the example of our client Eugene. So Eugene enrolled with us in 2020 during the pandemic, and it almost 23, and we're still connected. He's here today, so he's not technically even our current client. He's someone that we develop a relationship with that is a strong family. We check in with him. If we're coaching Hillary, we reach out to him. He can connect with us in terms of if it's time to switch jobs, or maybe it didn't quite work out. Let's connect. We host job fairs on our campus. Are open to all, not just for the College Valley students. And September 7th, we had a large job fair, and he showed up. He has 2 jobs, but he showed up just to kind of test the climate out there, to get in front of the recruiters of art and other companies to see what's there. He can be offered his resume writing or enhancement now that our clients are working. Maybe they worked the past year, but it's now time to update that resume. Use this with that. Interview prep. You have a job, and now you want to transition to new work or the next level of work within the same industry. Let's role play. Let's do a mock interview. Let's get you on phone. Let's meet you at the coffee shop. We didn't meet him in the cyber career center. We were shut down. I was shut down for 2.5 years during the pandemic. So 2020, our team went into this remote, hybrid, mobile type of services, right? So we were literally in the community during the pandemic, and that's how we met. She was out in the community at an agency called PEO, Immigrant Public Opportunity, that supports those who have been impacted by the shutdown. And because we could not actually meet Eugene on campus, provide services, we met him. I think it was Pete's Coffee. We were at Coffee, he and I meeting. We were wherever we needed to be to provide those services. So that was while he was a client, and now that he's no longer a client because he was a computer. He got a job and a computer. We're still supporting. Support looks different now, but we're still.
So it doesn't stop. The movement doesn't stop for me when it comes to my clients when they are employed or in school. As for Nyla here, just everything that she needs that I can support, I'm going to do. It's coming down from buying books, getting any supplies that she needs for work or anything of that nature. I'm willing to do bus and BART passes to help you get to and from work. With the back system, As long as they require our assistance, we will continue giving it to them. Now, when they decide that they no longer need it, it's okay. I can take them off my caseload, but I'm still here to support them if they do need it. They can come right back around that next week and say, hey, I don't need it, and then flip around and say, I do need it. Come on in. I'm going to help you get a job. I'm going to help you get to where you have to get to. It's just the continuous support that they need to know that somebody really cares, really has their back. Taking clients to interviews. If they got to go pick up their check, I'm helping to do that. Dropping off their keys to one job to another job. I'm doing everything I can to make it lighter because I put myself to school, so I know if I had a little more help, it would have made it easier. So if somebody could come to me to say, hey, I can buy you books, or I'm going to cover your rent at school this month while you're doing all of this, that'd be a great help. And here at Bax, we do those things, so I know it's really, really good. That's that.
So you're talking about after they're already placed, right? So for me, I feel like just like Akeem, the services do not stop. They're still limitless as far as I'm concerned. I'm really big on, as I mentioned before, like we can get you a job, but what is your long-term goal? And even though your immediate need is a job that will pay a livable wage today, we still have long-term goals where we need to check in and make sure, like, what did you do today or this week or this month to kind of get you to the next step? So like, for Mr. Carson, as long as he's working, that is great, but your goal is to be an entrepreneur. So what does that look like? What have you actually done to kind of get you there? Have you started advertising for yourself? Do you have a social media page for yourself? So I think for me, I'm always thinking about what your next step is and trying to help you kind of move yourself in that direction. I don't think that, with Bax, I just feel like once you get a job, the help does not stop. And I feel like if the help stopped or if we break the communication, the possibility of them coming back around and needing me again is going to be there. So I think it's important to just do like consistent check-ins with them to kind of figure out what they need. I know Mr. Carson can tell you when he was working one day, I think his bike messed up. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll come get you because we don't want to leave you anywhere stranded. I know that you have a job, but clearly there is a need, and we need to make sure that need is met to keep you from feeling like you want to just throw your hands up and just forget the job altogether. Because sometimes that happens, not to say you was going to do that, but that does happen sometimes where you just kind of get so overwhelmed with like all the intricate details of life that you will feel like just overwhelmed, and it's just like, I don't want to think about it. So for me, I try to help them, I guess, with everything that I can within my scope. So if that's you needing to go to the welfare office because there's something going on with your EBT card, we can take you there. If you need a replacement social security card, we can take you there. Like, there's no limits to where I will help. Well, I mean, if they let me, I'll even drive somebody down to LA. But there are no limits to where I feel like the help will end if you are employed, because being employed or being in school, that like there's a lot of help that you may need. I know for him specifically, like he have kids, and there's a lot of my clients who also have kids. So when you're thinking about how am I going to balance working, going to school, and still being an active parent, well, let's figure out what that looks like. Do you need support with finding childcare? If you do need support with finding childcare, what exactly does that look like? How much is it going to cost? Do we need to work out a budget to make sure that you can do this? So these are, again, the questions that I will ask to make sure that they're thinking about the next step or the potential obstacle that may come. I think it's very important to be proactive in all aspects, regardless of whether you're working or going to school, because life is going to happen. So I try to be that person, I guess.
Thank you. I'm going to grab a spotlight, point it over at Justin Beeler real quick here. We haven't heard from Justin yet. So, Justin, grocery outlet, what has been your experience hiring people that are experiencing homelessness?
So, I have a long time in retail management and now grocery outlet. And I've actually never been incentivized for hiring people into homelessness. The first store I worked at, and grocery outlet in San Francisco. So the reality in retail and the grocery industry is most jobs we hire for are not making people rich. So as much as we need people, the people need us. So in the SF Bayshore store, there were a handful of people that came to us that were homeless looking for employment. And so we were able to provide them employment at that store. And the reality is with every talent pool you're looking at, you've got some people that want to do a good job and some people that want to be there and some people that don't. My experience hiring was that they wanted to be there, they wanted to do a good job, and they contributed to the team and the culture in the store. So, there's
So at what point, how far in, like, when you hired someone that's experiencing homelessness, at what point, to give an example, if you brought someone on board and you felt confident? Like at what point, like think of a specific example, you brought someone in, you're like, yes, this is a good hire.
There's one guy in particular that was in our deli department in SFH. And he began taking on supervisor catering functions because in that store they didn't have enough money to have a supervisor in that department. So this individual began self-developing and showing initiative and taking on more responsibility. That's when I said it was and that's working out for the store. The other cool thing about the grocery industry, that store particularly, there was never a stigma towards these people. I think people were just happy there was someone to fill the job, to be quite honest. And then you've got somebody there that's trying to fill the job that's also demonstrating urgency and they want to work.
So you mentioned a minute ago, a word that jumped out was initiative. So what are some of the other characteristics that employees experiencing homelessness bring to the job?
Certainly they need money, they were reliable, they were there, they wanted a paycheck, they wanted to be there. In two team members that were homeless that were there, they were probably more reliable than the normal staff because they needed to be there and they wanted to be.
So I think that there may be some concerns that employers may have when it comes to bringing on someone that's experienced homelessness. So what are some of the myths that you would like to debunk as far as hiring someone that is experiencing homelessness?
You know, if I was to develop this, I didn't have, maybe, you know, I could have, but I didn't have people coming in with substance problems. I didn't have people calling out all the time for their shifts. I didn't have any of those problems that we expect or stigmatize that way. So that would be good.
So, last question we have real quick for you is, what would be your advice for an employer that's thinking about hiring someone that's experiencing homelessness, or an employer that's, you know, maybe thinking about taking advantage of homeless hiring aspect?
You know, I think this process and the system that you guys established is a great system. It's probably less risk hiring via this process with a tax credit behind you than it is hiring a typical worker. These people want jobs, they want to work, and we, you know, utilize that credit to our advantage to get rid of any stigma.
I believe that we have a couple of questions. I believe we have a couple of questions from the audience, the folks that are here today.
And just want to say, the top of this question is probably down on the next part of that. We have this. But so are we going to The first is, how does the individual get these out, the back program, and how do they find out about it? I'll try that towards the program provider.
It's a few routes that they can take, depending on where they are. We have access, it's Bay Area Community Services, but we're spread out at the Bay Area. We're expanding some places. So it just really depends on where you're at. You could go to Google to see the locations, but we have locations in Oakland that you would go to. One are wellness. So in Oakland, you would go down to Townhouse and they would direct you to where you would go. Fremont has a wellness center. You can go there. Hayward has a wellness center. It just, and Berkeley, there's also a center in Berkeley. So it just depends on where you are, and you'll find that wellness.
And for Contra Costa County, if you're specifically trying to get into our shelter, you have to call 211 and be referred. At this time, that's the way you get into our location, specifically in Contra Costa County.
I have another question. I think this will be directed to the service providers in the town. Did economy jobs help that stepping stone for longer term full time?
Can you repeat that?
Yes, did economy jobs help that stepping stone for longer term full time employment? Big word, additional word.
Yes. So I know for me, I have individuals or like having really good rapport with the community is always beneficial. So I'm very big on partnering with various parts of the community, regardless of whether it starts as an internship because you have no experience in there, or if they have various programs. I know one of our programs was like a 16-week program to learn how to do all these various things in construction. It was a very long program, well, not very long, but it was 16 weeks. And I had a client who went there and he walked every single day and actually never missed a class and was there early every single day. And in it, I found out he can sing. It was so crazy. But that partnership with that program actually led him to currently working in construction, and he's still working towards becoming a flagger. So now me as his employment coordinator and that program partner together to find any resources that we can. So although he's working right now, I believe in like recycling, he's still looking for something that would get him further. So me and that other organization collaborate together, make sure that we work on his resume, make sure that we're working on his interview skills, teaching him keywords to utilize when he goes into interviews so that he can make sure that he's articulating himself properly and kind of moving forward from there. So just because you get the job, the services do not stop there. If your ultimate goal is to get to some form of management, we'll find management training for you. We're basically supporting you throughout the step of achieving whatever the initial goal is.
I could piggyback on that a little bit. Yes, I do agree. Our partners that we work with, for instance, in bringing up Center for Employment Opportunity CEO, I love them. They are kind of sort of that foundation. They believe in getting a job, having a job helps you get a job. So with CEO, you go out daily and you do maintenance, highway maintenance, and in doing so, you can get pulled up to work with Caltrans. While working for CEO, they pay you daily just to put some money in your pocket to get you going. And then while you're working, they determine what type of work you do. They determine how you work, and then there they can put you into permanent employment from there with different jobs and things of that nature. And then we do partner with certain staffing agencies like Maliko. They are great for, okay, we're going to put you on at a job and see how you work it. They can lead to permanent employment.
Yeah, they will do. Well, definitely we've been getting for, like this gentleman just mentioned, a job and what people mentioned. And so what we've done with CEO clients and other clients, assisting them with being able to get the next job or they're with CEO
as you just mentioned, they're already doing things. But there's an opportunity when that shift in to pick up another job, or when that shift in to go into the training program. So like at the college now, we as prisoners, we are able with our county grant to fund a training program. So we work with hundreds of training providers from construction, truck driving to social media marketing and project management and HR management and all these wonderful industry recognized certifications that one can do while they're working. So it's that maybe it's gig work, maybe it's temporary work, but at the same time, by the time that temp job ends, you'll have this certification and we're on to the next plan. So it's building blocks for sure. For a wonderful discussion, found that very, enlightening and certainly I think the multiple perspectives really helps to create, greater understanding about the different dynamics, the circumstances, and also ways that providers are working diligently to craft customized plans and to really leverage the guidance and bring that in the program. So definitely appreciate it, and also the employer taking the chance on population and understanding that there's a lot of resilience that the population does bring to the job, a lot of gratitude and just appreciate you for that. I'm going to transition to our next segment and talk about the entire tax credit. So before we do that, let's give our panelists a round of applause. Okay, just really quickly. So for the employers that are here, if you are looking for new talent, the College Alameda has our next large in-person job fair next Friday. We still have space available for tabling for employers if you all are interested. We do not charge a fee. It's Friday, October 28th, College Alameda, 4 to 6 p.m. Providers will be shared with your network and your clients and everyone else we share. We have over 20 employers, Eastman, BART. We have a really great relationship with BART. And I can't even think of the others. I have flyers in the car, I'll bring them in. And Andre, is it Andre or DeAndre? DeAndre. So we have a small business that I'm bringing to this event called KJ Barbershop, and he offers apprenticeship. So when I heard you mention that you want to be your barber, maybe come out and meet Joe, the owner, next Friday, and I can connect you through your career coach. You want to also come, because there might be an opportunity here.
Thank you.
And that's just happening in real time. Okay, well, I hope that was eye-opening and really encouraging. Want to be involved and engaged in being empowered in their own life. So with that, I'm going to transition. You guys are keeping the back, okay? To the benefits of the California hiring practice. Some of you in our administration that weren't at all familiar with this, some are a little bit right there. And that's probably because it's pretty new. So for job seekers, we might kind of think about the homeless hiring tax credit. Essentially, is a win for them, right? It's a win for the job seeker because they get onboarded with the tax credit at a higher wage. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Through this, when an employer does leverage the tax credit, and then employers, they find in this relatively tight labor market, they're able to leverage up to $30,000 in a calendar year, and that's $10,000 for an individual to hire up to 3 individuals. It's really nice to have benefit for hiring. So a little bit more about the homeless hiring tax credit. It was effective of this year, January 2022, and it goes through December 31st, 2026. Employers are able to something higher than $1,000 calendar year. If the year rolls over, they can also hire some, 3 new individuals per calendar year. So that's and So the employer is able to receive between $2,500 and $10,000 in tax credits per eligible employee, like I said, up to the max in the calendar year. So this amount that employers can unlock is dependent on the number of hours worked by the employee in the tax year. So if you hire someone with this experience and they only work 450 hours, that actually doesn't grant you any tax credit amounts, right? So the person really has to be on board with you between 500 and 900 hours to unlock the first tier of that tax credit, $2,500. And then it goes up from there. So the goal here is to not just take advantage of this, but to retain that talent, keep that person on board. Not only because you can get more of the tax credit, but they're doing a great job. So people place, right? Keep them going, and for that, you get to unlock some other tiers and work your way towards $1,000 tax credit. So I just kind of broke down that bracket here that you should see. It's been bracket as well, but if you want to, the 2,000 hours or more helps for you to unlock the $10,000 for that. As I mentioned before, that's the effective date. But the employer must onboard that employee at 120% of the local wage. So, basically $15 an hour, you would be onboarding this person at $18 an hour. If you're already offering that, that's not going to be a big problem, right? We know that a lot of employers have to kind of shift paradigms around the kind of wages, work environments being offered to retain this talent. I think a lot of employers in the Bay Area are a little bit, working towards this thing. So it does provide a better livable wage for that employee as well. The job seeker must be homeless at the date of hire or within 150 days, 6 months of that hire date. And the job seeker can obtain a homeless verification form from a local homeless service provider that's connected to the care. So, Alameda County has been working behind the scenes to figure that part out and how that works locally. So, the job seeker will have access to verification forms that they can take out to verify that they are being homeless or extending that. So that job seeker is local coordination that you receive that form, and then you'll have to be, for the most part, to reserve that tax credit online. I'll get to that in just a moment to move all these different steps. I have a question. If you wouldn't mind writing it on the card, and then so employers have within 30 days to complete the new hire reporting. This is something that the development department is requiring. So those details will be found on their website. So the hirings can have to report to the EPD. That's actually changing the and then we have to actually consider the tax credit online. So 30-day window overall, and as you're hiring people, you want to just make sure it's all important. Like I said, I'll go over some of the other steps required to actually reserve the tax credit online. So the employer must submit the job seeker's full certification form and then get that information online with the telephone and So some of the information needed from employers to actually preserve the tax credit online. You want to gather, the type of entity you are, whether you're a corporation, a partnership, LLC, so on and so forth, the name of your business ID. We're talking about your EIN or your telephone information number, identifying features to your business, the address of your business, business contact name, and phone number. And if you have someone to help prepare that documentation, you also want to include that. So whoever prepared your information, your name, and ID. So sometimes this may be like if your agency is working with an outside work of preparing documents to get ready to your tax credit, or there's a lot of tax for there's different tax credits. So if you're working with someone outside of your own part of the initial role, providing that information if they come to prepare the information you reserve your tax credit. For the employee, you're going to have the employee's name, social security number, the entire the hours the employee is expected to work for the next 12 months, because it's kind of like this is reserving tax credit within the 30-day time frame. You're kind of anticipating the projected number of hours. So starting with hourly wages, and then the actual verification form. And this information is hyperlinked in terms of how you connect with the California Franchise Tax Board on the process. It is on their website, and that's provided in your package, and then you provide that visually with that link. So with that, I'm going to actually take some questions from the audience around the tax credit, and yeah.
We have some questions online.
Yes.
Yeah. The question is, are nonprofit employers eligible for the tax credit?
Yeah, so the first question, our virtual audience, nonprofit employers, are they eligible for the tax credit? And the answer is yes. And then in our physical room here, okay, how many times can the employer claim the credit for one person? I.e., if they work for 2 years and make it every year. Okay, let me answer that one first. So for the most part, if that person maxes out of the, let me go back to this, maybe it's a better visual. So if they max out at that 2,000 hours, then they're maxed out, right? But like, let's say the employer hires them halfway through the year, and they still have, maybe they're at 1,000 hours at that point, and they still have another 1,000 hours to get to the next calendar year, so the next 6 months rolling over, they can still claim the remaining amount to get to 2,000. Yes, they can roll it over, but they're not able to, once they kind of get that credit amount of 10,000, they're no longer able to claim the credit for that same person. But if that person gets hired midway through the year, only 500 hours, and they go the next full year, and it's another 1,000 hours, they would still be able to claim the credit for the remainder. So is there also a total cap of 2,000 hours? Okay. Yeah, the cap is $10,000. And so, so basically when they hit that cap, so let's say they bring them on in June, right? And so that's six months to the end of the year, right? And they only were able to get the 1,000 hours in. So carrying out the next 6 months, even if it rolls over into the next year, they can still claim another 1,000 hours, 10,000 hours. So based on what you said, I understand the calendar year cap, but are you also saying that there's a total cap of 2,000 hours? Yeah, I think that should actually be 2,000 hours just total. So yeah, the total cap is 2,000 hours, 10,000 per individual.
No, I was just piggybacking with this. I understand. So each person, you only have 2,000 with that person. It's not the year. You can't claim year. They did that individual 2,000. Right. It's done completely.
Correct. Yes. Absolutely. So the next question is: the patient department verify homelessness? How is homelessness being defined? That's a great question. Generally, let me address the homeless define piece. It's a broad definition. I believe that definition is being used actually kind of broad. It's physically, unhoused, but also as long as the person can, I think, verify that they're experiencing some kind of homelessness. So if they're couch surfing, or they're connected to a home care program, that can then verify that yes, this person is couch surfing, this person is precariously housed, they belong. If a client becomes homeless during, the probation department verified homelessness. The verification activities are being done by any of the providers connected to the community care system. So if they're not part of that system, we wouldn't be able to verify homelessness. But those pathways to connection with those programs are pretty accessible. If they're throughout the county, so you can reach out, we have some information to follow up to give you a list of those providers, so you know where to send people and have if the client becomes homeless during employment, can the employer claim the following challenges? That's a great question. Yeah, so if your participant or your employee somehow discloses that, hey, I was having a hard time with my car, whatever the situation is, or in a ED shelter, or whatever the case may be, and they become homeless, yes, as long as they can get that verification form signed off by a department of care, then that would be a experience. Okay, so with the workforce development board be interested in helping to develop homeless jobs for database for employers? Okay, so this is an interesting question. We're definitely willing to work and connect with you all if we want to try to figure out a way to somehow we can help you to signal out to the system. Think about Batman. A signal out to the system. But we'll be able to work with our partners if you have people in mind to say, are there people experiencing homelessness right now? We have this job opportunity. But if you do want to further elaborate on this, because the database piece may be a little bit more tricky, but does anyone else want to elaborate on this or ask questions about the database? Okay. Yeah.
I just figured it might be easier rather than doing it on the individual level, so if someone can look at it, look at more now things go and know it's not really
yeah, okay, so getting at something a little bit more systematic. We haven't gotten that far yet. We have been trying to actively promote this and trying to codify some kind of event that brings us together to kind of kickstart our efforts. But let's definitely touch base when we talk about what that actually or operation. Okay, so if an employee works 1,000 hours in their first calendar year of employment, they then count as one of the eligible employees for the next calendar year. Yes, so depending on how those, so it's 1,000 hours, you have to do the calendar year, and that you think up to 10,000 hours. That means, yes, you still have another 1,000 hours to go to take a past the employee. Is there a cap for how many years someone can be considered homeless? Does anybody want to elaborate that question?
We have individuals working with the if you're working on these embedded, being able to together, being able to together, child care, maybe in our program, for potentially not just one, maybe 2, 3. So at the point that they're doing these remote, they're being capped on the number of years that they can consider doing still utilize it.
That's a great question. It's really confined the way that the law was written to this $10,000 cap. So if that person is homeless multiple years and that they're on, so the $2,000 works out to the full time equivalency for the whole calendar year, then that would get that right. So they may still be experiencing homelessness, but in the context of the tax credit, the employer would only be able to leverage that credit for the $10,000. So if that's 1 year, from the half year, it rolls over 2 years, and that's can a person with 2 jobs be claimed by both employers? This question is really down. Okay, get a person with 2 jobs complained by both employers. I might have to circle back on this. I can connect with California Franchise Tax Board, who's responsible for actually running this program on that part. So I don't want to give you the wrong answers. So let me circle back on that. And is there a pay range requirement? So yes, the employer has to bring the person on, and I believe all cities, all counties are looking at 15 hours an hour at least. I mean, I know like in our county, the cities of Emeryville or offer a little bit more, like they're 15 range. So it would be basically 10 to 20% of $15 an hour, from what I understand. Now, if it's in one of those other higher cities or higher lower wage cities, so like Perth, Emeryville, I believe it might be that local wage, but for the most part, we're talking about $15 an hour. Is one of the factors $18 an hour. And I think this is the last one. Are there long-term incentives for employees and employers for people in the same employment for 2 years plus, for example? Long-term incentives. When it comes to this tax credit, it's kind of confined to that $10,000 mark, right? So as long that's an incentive, pretty much is confined to that. In the future, especially for employers who start taking more better advantage of this, because we don't have a lot of utilization of the tax credit, which is currently. I can imagine that if there's enough advocacy around it, in the legislative proposal or a legislative fix to integrate more into that tax credit. But we don't know what that's going to look like just yet. So it's really confined to that $10,000. If I hire an employee during the last quarter of the calendar year, are they only eligible for the tax credit for the remaining months of that same calendar year? Yeah, so they would be eligible. So they hire them in November and all the way through December, and they only clock in 500 hours. You can take that person to the next year and claim the remaining of that tax credit. So you would be locked in 2,500. Keep that person on board, depending on if they're part-time or full-time, and you can go all the way up to the $10,000. Can I ask a follow-up to that? Sure. Do they have to keep That's a great question. They just made a legislative change. So yes, the employer would have to actually get another homeless verification form if they want to bring that person into the next calendar year. Which again, what I understand is pretty low barrier to.
Just a clarification, the 3 applicant and then per year, is that simultaneously you only have the 3? Or for this person, for example, someone does 500 hours 1 year, and the next year they go over, they're one of those 3. Does that mean you can only hire 2 more for that entire year?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, yes, I believe that's what it means. So you do have to roll that person over because they got clocked. Their hours got clocked for 1 year and then roll over to the next calendar year. That means that because you would be trying to get the remaining credit for that person, you would have 2 individuals left.
So then it would be impossible to reach the $30,000 maximum in that scenario for that next year. It makes keeping the same employee less attractive for employers in that scenario. If it was only 3 simultaneously, then once someone graduates from the program per se, another person in that same calendar year can be started.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I think that there's going to be some polishing of the legislation as it goes along and amendments and things like that. But I did want to encourage employers to, have real employees, like real hiring needs, right? That's really, I think, where you're gonna get the most benefit. I think, you know, the tax credit adds that incentive. If someone's on the job, they're doing a great job, you know, you wanna retain them anyway. So, but I do think that there's going to be an enhancement to the law. That's all the questions I have on the cards. I see it hands in the back, and I think you have some questions online. I'm gonna do the time check. Make sure. Any questions?
Right, I mean, something that's gonna make tax on too, but to the point, yeah, it's this tax credit, and all the things and for the paper, we have a tax credit, and you know, you have some, how it works, business benefits, if they're all how it works, so,
Yeah, so from what I understand, taking advantage of this tax credit does not prevent you from taking advantage of other tax credits. So it can be combined, you know, if you have like voting re-entry and homeless, you can also do, you know, this tax credit combined with the Washington federal tax credit, and the opportunity tax credit. So strategically, right, this is probably where HR teams have been going to be really strategic on, you know, how to make tax credit. Do we have other questions? We're almost at time, and I have a few more slides. Do you have questions from online?
Online, yes. If an individual is part of the AC Hire program through Alameda County, will the employer still be eligible for the tax credit, or would they be considered a conflict of interest?
Yeah, so from what I understand, the eligible employers have to be paying wages, so they have to be the employer of record. So in that AC hire program, if it's like a CBO partner placing a participant within social services, for instance, social services, whoever's paying a wage, is the one who would be eligible to apply for the hire council. So not necessarily the collaborative partner, even though that's a great thing facilitated, right? But really it's whoever's being engaged. Any more online questions?
No.
All right, so in the interest of time, we can always talk after. I just want to make sure we're staying, you know, after. Okay, so action plan. You've heard a lot of great information this morning. Maybe you have some real hiring needs. Maybe you came into the room with misconceptions or misunderstanding of the population. And maybe you did. Maybe, you know, all of this is just a repeat for you or something you already know. But whatever scenario you may be in, if you are an employer in the room, we want to encourage you to connect with us. Alameda County Workforce Development Board or the local homeless shelter program, like FACTS program that was just here on now. And let us know more about your current job skills. And we learned today, you know, providers are taking thought for the skills that we're doing for. Providers are putting together individual employment plans that sometimes integrate, you know, services and basic needs, but also career and training and inclusive of entrepreneurial training, right? Because we know a lot of those ones who become small business owners as well. So let us know, you know, connect with us, let us know what those job openings are, what the requisite skills are, so that we can collectively search to find you someone experiencing homelessness. And to Janine's point in the back, you know, great if we could get a computerized system. I think we're gonna get there. I don't know if we're there now, but we're gonna get there. But we will, through our partnership, try to find someone across our panel, the college panel, that's a grad shop, right? Who serves people under our field. Backs. So we have those connections, right? So connect with us, and we'll connect with you. We'll strive to introduce you to our prospective employee. And then here's the thing, because I think sometimes it's like, oh, there's an automatically on person. You would still engage in the interview process, right? You still want to see that the person who fit, that they have the record skills, they're going to do as much as you can building that match, right? But you know, you still have your HR process, and that's okay. If that job offer is made, the respective employee will secure that verification form and submit it to you so you can reserve your tax credit. This is particularly something we worked out in Allen County, that there's the empowering of the job seeker to actually get their verification filled out and send it over to and then in the case that that doesn't happen, you can also submit a verification form directly to a local homeless service provider. But Alameda County, once again, we're going to kind of do the job seeker first to get that information. And then you want to go online to the California Franchise Tax Board, got that link, hyperlink in this PowerPoint, and engage in the tax credit reservation process. I've actually tested it out, it's pretty straightforward. Not a bunch of extra contingencies and attachments, it's pretty straightforward. And reserve your tax credit, right? And once again, this is an anticipation of how tax credit is going to be used. And on the back end, the California Franchise Tax Board is going to recalibrate if needed, if the person works less hours than the so you don't have to worry about that part of the recalibration that's going to happen with the franchise tax board. So call to action, let's connect. Please go ahead and open your binders. In that we have two things, our event survey and our interest part. So the event survey is more about how it is today, but the interest part is really about, this next step. Yes, please contact me, let's get started. Maybe not, I'm still to think about it, or I'm not interested. Hope you are interested today, because note that this population, there's a lot of students to the workforce. And so we hope that you are interested. That part is in your binder. And then here's some resources, hyperlinks, so you have this in your PowerPoint, you can send the soft copy as well, so that you can just click that link and get started. The Franchise Tax Board, the EDP, new hire reporting, regarding engagement with the trademarking. Our site backs in the college calendar years. So with that, I just want to thank you so much. I think this has been really delightful and happy with us during the morning, through the afternoon, actually at 1 o'clock. But it's been really great to connect with you to try to put all pieces together. And we appreciate your work for it. So with that, please fill out your interest cards and surveys, and then if you have questions, all staff will be here. I just also want to thank again my colleagues, the registration table, taking pictures, David with the moderation skills, county IT, and everyone all of our